This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Max Verstappen has already been in a title fight with arguably the greatest Formula 1 driver of all time, Lewis Hamilton. And surely that must be one of the hardest things he's ever done. But maybe this year, he could face an even bigger challenge. There are currently 3 things stopping Max Verstappen from winning his second world title. 2 of which are pretty obvious, but the other one might not be what you expect. So with these 3 opposing forces, can Max Verstappen win his second world title? Let's talk about it. Now let's get the most obvious problem out the way, Ferrari. But wait a minute, weren't they fighting at the bottom of the midfield a couple years ago? How are they now fighting for a title? Well, let's rewind. Now let me take you back to 2021. Max Verstappen is in an extremely close and fierce battle for the title with Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion. All teams have known that there would be new aerodynamic regulations for the following year, so sometime during the season they would have to stop developing their 2021 car and focus on 2022. But it seems like Red Bull and Mercedes were putting all their resources into this year's car. This meant that Ferrari, who were in the battle for third, had already pulled away from McLaren. This meant they could start investing heavily into their 2022 car. Now, a lot of people thought that Red Bull and Mercedes could possibly drop back as they would not have a developed 2022 Formula 1 car compared to the likes of Ferrari. Although a lot of people also thought that Mercedes could have the upper hand on Red Bull, as that team were going for their first world title since Sebastian Vettel in 2013. Okay, so now you know how Ferrari ascended back to the top after finishing 6th in the standings a couple of years ago. But what happened to Mercedes? And how is Max gonna beat Charles Leclerc to this world title? That first question is a story for another day, but that second question leads me on to his second problem. Red Bull's reliability has been awful this year. An easy example would be the Bahrain Grand Prix, the opener for the season. It seemed like Red Bull would have Max Verstappen on the podium and Perez closely following. But then literally laps before the end of the Grand Prix, both cars broke down. And earlier in that race, we had Pierre Gasly's engine on fire. This did not look good for the newly named Red Bull powertrains, even though they were pretty much still Honda but rebranded. So it was no point to the Red Bull team, and they were last in the standings going into Saudi Arabia. Who would have thought that Red Bull would have 0 points in 2022? But in Saudi Arabia, Red Bull turned up. Kind of. The Red Bull team themselves did well, but the powertrains not so much. Yuki Tsunoda also had another problem before the Grand Prix, so he couldn't start the race. The Red Bull Works team had an amazing weekend though, with Sergio Perez getting his first pole position, and Max Verstappen having a nice little tussle with Charles Leclerc, and Max in the end winning the race. But now he was 18 points behind Charles Leclerc. Now this was only one race, and it only takes one DNF to change the course of the championship. I mean, look back last year when Max and Lewis went into the final race on equal points. If one of them had a couple points more or a couple points less, the entire championship could have gone the other way. Now let's move on to Australia. The first time he raced at Albert Park for 3 years. Now it was up to Red Bull to start getting back at that deficit they created, and they needed Max to be on pole. Unfortunately, it was Ferrari domination that entire weekend, or more like Charles Leclerc domination, as Carlos Sainz lost out with red flags in quali, putting him in P9 for the Grand Prix. Then he went a little bit trigger happy on cold tyres and spun and ended up in the gravel trap. Charles ran away with it, getting his first ever Grand Slam, and Max looked like he was securely in second place and was going to get those valuable 18 points. But then the Red Bull reliability came back. Well, more like the unreliability. They weren't very reliable, and Max was told to pull over and his car broke down again. Now Max was only on 25 points, and Charles had steamed off ahead in the championship. This is like the worst title defense I've ever seen. Max Verstappen, after winning his first ever world title, was in P6 in the standings. Oh my. And then there was this weekend, the Emilia Romagna something Rolex something Imola Grand Prix. The Red Bulls did dominate this time with no reliability issues at all. Although their sister team, or junior team, whatever you want to call it, AlphaTauri, did seem to be very slow this weekend, but that could have just been the weather affecting it. And with Carlos Sainz being tapped out by Daniel Ricciardo at the start of the first chicane, followed by Charles Leclerc making a bit of a rookie error spinning out that other chicane, it cost him 3rd place, and he eventually finished in P6. And then the Red Bulls finished with the 1-2. Max was now clawing back at Charles Leclerc's lead, and Max moved up to P2 in the championship. Before I continue, let me talk to you a little bit about Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one tool to create a beautiful website. Whether you're an artist wanting to show your new portfolio to the world, or create an online store and start the next big clothing brand, or you can create an insightful, clean and sleek looking blog, Squarespace is the place for you. You don't even need to be a Formula 1 engineer to create an awesome looking website. I mean, you can see me in the background here just messing around, dragging and dropping and adding text. and making this new website look clean as anything. And if you want to create an awesome looking website, head to squarespace.com using the link down below and use code CarsWithConnor at checkout for 10% off your first domain name. So yeah, thanks Squarespace. Let's continue with the video. Another factor I haven't mentioned are the teammates, Carlos Sainz and Checo Perez. So far this year has been pretty equal between these two. We've had Sainz getting a 1-2 for Ferrari in Bahrain, and then him getting another podium in Saudi Arabia. We had Perez unfortunately retiring in Bahrain, then getting his first ever pole position in Formula 1 in Saudi Arabia, and then an unlucky safety car caused him to finish 4th, but still a good result for him. Now the key to winning a championship is also having a second driver to support you. A perfect example was Sergio Perez holding off Hamilton in Abu Dhabi for Max. The second driver needs to be willing to sacrifice their own race for the greater good of the team. Now could we see Carlos Sainz pulling over for Charles Leclerc this season? Yes, I think Carlos would do that, but I don't think he'd be very happy about it. And also with Carlos's inconsistent results this year, with his back-to-back retirements in Australia and Imola, he wasn't there to help Charles. This may have forced unnecessary pressure upon Leclerc, causing him to, I don't know, maybe go over a sausage curb and ending up spinning and losing 10 points for the team. And then while this was happening, Perez and Verstappen, were steaming off ahead. Verstappen was confident because he had a safety net behind him, with Perez defending from Leclerc. This leads perfectly onto my third and final concern for Max Verstappen. I don't think this would be what he anticipated, but I think his greatest challenge wouldn't come from Ferrari, but within his own team, and more specifically, Sergio Perez. What happens if Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez perform equally, which is happening more and more often these days? For example, Perez getting his first pole position, but who do Red Bull favour if they're both equal? Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez? Well, I think the answer to this question is relatively simple. It's obviously going to be Max Verstappen. But another fact we haven't taken into consideration is Red Bull junior drivers. Checo Perez is getting pretty old these days, and he probably won't be the wingman for Verstappen for the rest of his life. So Red Bull will have to bring up a junior driver, which could cause conflict within the team. So who do Red Bull favour? Their long-time star driver Max Verstappen, or a new driver with lots of potential? For example, we could see someone like Yuki Tsunoda or maybe Liam Lawson or Dennis Hauger making their way into that star Red Bull seat. So maybe Max Verstappen has something to worry about. Yes, this would be in the future, but it's something to think about. All these thoughts are probably in the back of Max Verstappen's mind, wondering if there's ever going to be competition within his own team. Now, can Max Verstappen win this championship with Red Bull's horrible reliability? Because if you look at the start of every single race that Verstappen's finished, he's gone on to win the race, which is a pretty good sign so far. But on the other hand, you have races like Bahrain, where 3/4 of Red Bull powered cars didn't finish the race. But to help me answer the question of can Max Verstappen win this World Drivers' Championship, I've enlisted the help of a Max Verstappen fan, John Warren.
So when Connor came to me with this video idea, I was fairly certain that I would be saying no to the question in the video title. This was off the back of the Red Bull looking like a mobile barbecue in 2 of the first 3 races, and just not looking as fast as the Ferrari in the times it wasn't on fire. But I guess I'm being rewarded for being terrible at time management because I'm writing this script after Imola, where after he scored another Grand Slam, I have a very strong feeling that Max can still turn this season around. With just 27 points between the pair, it's only one Leclerc DNF away from Max being truly neck and neck with our current leader. Of course, the same goes both ways. If Red Bull's car blows up another 1 or 2 times, then we can pretty much rule Max out of the hunt. But as things stand right now, it's Red Bull on the front foot, and with a teammate who, unlike Sainz, is able to back him up in his fights for the win, things are looking up for Verstappen. In terms of pace, both Verstappen and Leclerc are at the top of their game, but something I think has been unnoticed so far this season is the consistency of the former. He's not made a single mistake so far, while Leclerc dropped 10 points in Imola through trying to score an extra 3. So, in my opinion, I don't think it's over yet for Max Verstappen, and if Red Bull can sort their engine issues out, then I think Leclerc and Ferrari have good reason to be worrying.
Thanks to John for coming on. Be sure to check him out on the link below. If you like my content, then you'll definitely love John's content, and be sure to subscribe to him. Thanks, John. Now it's time to give you my views on if I think Max Verstappen can win this World Drivers' Championship. Now it's obvious that on their day, Red Bull are way ahead of Ferrari, but the next day Ferrari could be all over Red Bull. Now Max's main problem is his reliability. If he continues to DNF every other race, Leclerc will win this championship before the summer break. But the one advantage Max has is his experience. Yes, he's only 24 years old, but he's been in F1 for 6 years, and he's been performing at the top for most of his time there. He has also already been in a heated championship battle with arguably one of the best drivers ever in the sport, Lewis Hamilton. And then of course, he beat him. Max has probably learnt loads from that battle, from Silverstone, he's probably learnt from Monza as well, and now knows that this championship is a marathon, not a sprint. The famous last words that Lewis Hamilton said before going straight at Baku, and pretty much losing the championship there. But despite all this, in my opinion, Ferrari's overall package is better than Red Bull's this year. A simple comparison could be the Ferrari power unit. Yes, the engines are pretty much the same from last year. We see the likes of Alfa Romeo and Haas fighting near the top of the midfield this year, compared to last year where they were backmarkers. So for me, I think Max Verstappen will not win this 2022 Formula 1 World Championship. But who knows, this is Formula 1 after all. Literally anything could happen. For all I know, Goat Tiffy could end up winning his championship. It's just crazy this year. But yeah, that's why I'm worrying that Max Verstappen might not be able to win this Formula 1 World Championship. Thanks to John for coming on, be sure to check him out, link in the description, and also check out Squarespace while you're down there. And with that said, I'd like to thank you for watching. I've been Connor, and I'll see you later. Bye.